Adults on board. Nobody here is over the age of 21.
New tonight, a frantic 911 call from the day Nolan Wells disappeared. It reveals what his friends told dispatchers as their boat began taking on water.
And it raises new questions about what happened before the 18-year-old was left behind on Horn Island. The teen was found dead after being reported missing several hours after his friends say he stayed behind to hang out with a girl. 16 WABT's Carlos Garcia live in the studio tonight with what was uncovered in the new documents and audio. Carlos.
That's right, Megan. Tonight we're hearing new audio of a frantic call for help by Nolan Wells' friends as their boat was taking on water just hours before the teenager disappeared.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking.
Tonight we're hearing more audio from the frantic call from the boat Nolan Wells was supposed to have taken ashore after celebrating July 4th with friends on a remote barrier island off the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
And what do you want to do? Do you want to be towed back?
I want to get this boat unsank and towed back, yes.
The caller told the dispatcher everyone aboard was unhurt and noted he and the passengers were young.
There are 0 adults on board. Nobody here is over the age of 21.
Documents obtained by ABC News show the boat set off for Horn Island just before 10 a.m. the morning of July 4th. Wells and his friends arrived at 11:14 a.m. For the next 5 hours, the boat was stationary until it left at 4:31 p.m. without Wells, moving at no more than 4 knots. Whatever problem the teens reported was resolved about an hour later at 5:25 when the vessel regained normal operation and begins accelerating at 30 to 35 knots. Friends said they did not abandon Wells. Rather, the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources reported his friends saying Wells, quote, was in the company of an unknown female and that he chose to remain at the island. As searchers began scanning the island and surrounding waters, this email obtained by ABC News shows the preliminary information they were given, describing Wells as a black male, 6'1", 180 pounds, wearing shorts only. The Marine Patrol listed his alcohol intake as heavy. The state's autopsy, including the results of toxicology tests, is pending.
3 words, buried inside static, concealed beneath the panic of a boat taking on water in the middle of Mississippi Sound. Is he dead? That is what millions of people swore they heard when an emergency call from Horn Island went viral. Those 3 words nearly hijacked the entire story before the truth about that recording could surface. But the real mystery of Nolan Wells runs far deeper than any audio file. When his body was pulled from that island's shore 2 days later, the independent autopsy could not determine how he died. Red discoloration marked the back of his head. Parts of his throat were not present in the body, and foul play could not be ruled out. If you're following this case, subscribe to Crime Dive Network and hit that notification bell, because the updates are coming fast and the story is still unfolding. Nolan Wells was 18 years old, a football player at Southwest Mississippi Community College, a graduate of Ocean Springs High School. His mother described him as having a gentle, calming spirit, someone who made everyone around him feel like they belonged. He was also a strong swimmer, athletic, capable in the water, which makes what happened on July 4th of this year so difficult to understand. He traveled to Horn Island with a group of friends to celebrate the holiday. The island sits roughly 10 miles off the Mississippi coast, surrounded by water that can shift from waist-deep to neck-deep in moments, pulled by currents the locals know to respect. Around 3 in the afternoon, Nolan was last seen on that island. His friends would later say he chose to stay behind with a girl he had been talking to. They took his phone and his keys when they left. The family has publicly questioned that decision. What teenager stays behind on an island without their phone? What happened next is documented in a frantic call to sea tow around 4 in the afternoon. The bilge pump on the boat had failed. Water was rising inside the hull. The caller was a teenager begging for help, voice strained, the situation deteriorating by the second. The boat was actively sinking. The group was scrambling to survive. For days, that recording sat in the background of the case. Then, an enhanced version was released. Listeners began pulling phrases from the chaos. Is he dead? Someone calling out Nolan's name. Check his chest. Wake up. Beneath it all, the caller screaming at everyone to shut up. The internet had a new theory by morning. Something criminal had happened on that boat. Tens of millions of people were convinced before a single official source confirmed a word of it. But when a digital forensics expert compared the original recording against the enhanced version, the differences were not subtle. The enhanced file ran 20 full seconds longer. It carried a completely different digital fingerprint. The underlying file had been altered in a way that fundamentally distinguished it from the source material. The expert went on record, stating he could not corroborate a single phrase that had been claimed. Not is he dead, not check his chest, not wake up. None of it held up against the actual original recording. One of the friends who was on that boat has since spoken publicly. Warren Hudson gave a first-hand account of what was actually happening in those exact minutes. He described a genuine emergency. The bilge pump had completely stopped working. The boat was taking on water. The group was in full panic, scrambling to keep the vessel afloat. Hudson described someone calling out Nolan's name, trying desperately to get him onto the boat before they had to leave. According to Hudson, Nolan made the decision to stay on the island. The shouting, the overlapping voices, the raw panic on that recording, all came from a vessel in an active sinking emergency, while Nolan was still standing on the island behind them. That is the context the audio went viral without, and the consequences of that missing piece have been severe. The FBI has confirmed its involvement in the case, specifically focused on interstate threats received by individuals connected to the matter. Those threats are directly tied to what happened online after that enhanced audio spread. People convinced by those 3 words began targeting the people connected to it. The threats were serious enough and crossed enough state lines that federal jurisdiction was triggered. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office remains the lead agency. The FBI's role is support, not command. But that distinction does not diminish the gravity of what the online reaction has done to this case. Sheriff John Ledbetter has stated that over 60 witnesses have been interviewed. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigation and the FBI are assisting. The family, led by civil rights attorney Ben Crump, has demanded transparency at every turn. They have offered a reward. They have held press conferences, and they have made it unmistakably clear that they do not believe they have been told the full story. The independent autopsy only deepened the uncertainty. The cause and manner of death were listed as undetermined pending investigation. The pathologist noted red discoloration on the back of Nolan's head. He noted that parts of the throat were not present in the body. He stated explicitly that he could not rule out foul play. The state autopsy remains pending. Nolan Wells was last seen alive on an island in the middle of the afternoon. He was found dead on that same island's shore roughly 36 hours later. The audio that convinced millions of a crime on a sinking boat has been forensically discredited. The friends on that boat have given their account. The FBI is now involved because of threats spawned by misinformation. And yet the central question remains unanswered. How does an athletic 18-year-old strong swimmer die on an island he never intended to stay on alone, with an autopsy that cannot determine cause, cannot rule out violence, and cannot close the door on something far worse than an accident? Here is what almost nobody realized. The recording released by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, the version everyone treated as the untouched original, had already been partially redacted before a single member of the public ever pressed play. Account numbers, phone numbers, identifying metadata, all of it stripped away, which means the clean, complete, unaltered original has never been publicly available. Not once. What millions of people treated as smoking gun evidence was an enhanced version of an already redacted copy, processed in a way that changed its digital fingerprint, with a qualified forensic expert going on national television to say he could not verify a single phrase driving the biggest theory in this case. If you are following this story, subscribe to Crime Dive Network and turn on notifications, because the next developments could change everything we think we know. But the audio is only one layer of this story, and it may not even be the most important one. 2 witnesses have reportedly come forward to say they saw Nolan Wells still standing on Horn Island after his friend's boat had already departed. If those accounts are verified, it means Nolan was not on that vessel when any of those background voices were recorded. It means the shouting, the panic, the overlapping chaos captured on that dispatch call was exactly what Warren Hudson described. A boat in genuine distress. A group of teenagers fighting to keep a sinking hull above water. And Nolan, left behind on an island he never planned to stay on alone, with his phone and his keys taken from him. Investigators have not officially commented on those witnesses, but everything confirmed so far points in the same direction. The timeline, Hudson's first-hand account, the witness claims, the forensic analysis of the audio itself. None of it supports the theory that those 3 words were about Nolan on that boat. None of which brings his family a single step closer to understanding how their son died. 2 autopsies have now been conducted on Nolan Wells. Neither has produced a final conclusion. The state autopsy remains pending. The independent autopsy, arranged through the family's legal team and conducted by forensic pathologist Dr. Roger Mitchell, came back with both cause and manner of death listed as undetermined pending further investigation. Mitchell was explicit about why. Advanced decomposition, and the fact that the body had already undergone a prior official examination significantly limited what could be conclusively established from a second procedure. Red discoloration was noted on the back of Nolan's head. Parts of his throat were not present in the body. Undetermined is not an answer. It is a door that is still open. And Nolan's family has made clear they will not accept it as a final destination. The investigation is now confirmed to be heading toward a grand jury referral once it concludes. Roughly 60 witnesses have already been interviewed as the Sheriff's Department pieces together Nolan's final hours on that island, hour by hour. And for the first time, Nolan's phone is about to undergo a coordinated joint review, with the family's own independent investigators and law enforcement, examining its contents together, searching for anything that might explain why an athletic 18-year-old strong swimmer never made it off that island alive. Former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffendaffer, who has reviewed the evidence publicly available in this case, said what she has seen points toward an accident. But she was direct and careful in the same breath. More details could still emerge. She is not closing any door on this investigation until the full picture is in front of her. That is the honest position this case demands from everyone covering it, because the confirmed facts and the viral narrative have been running in 2 different directions for weeks. In a case with 2 autopsies still pending, no official cause of death, and a family carrying completely legitimate unanswered questions about what happened to their 18-year-old son, 3 words in the muffled background of an emergency call became the single most shared piece of evidence in the entire investigation. Before any forensic expert had verified them, before the identity of any voice had been officially established, and before anyone had confirmed that the file being analyzed had not already been altered from its original form. The FBI is now managing the real-world consequences of that gap. Threats serious enough to cross state lines and pull federal resources into protecting people who never asked to be at the center of this story. Warren Hudson went on record. A forensic expert went on national television. The FBI put its role in writing. 2 witnesses placed Nolan on that island after the boat left. And the enhanced audio that sent this theory around the world has a different digital fingerprint than the original file it claims to be based on. Those are the confirmed facts on the table tonight. But the Wells family still does not have a cause of death. They still do not have a final autopsy result. They still have a phone that has not been jointly examined. They still have a grand jury that has not yet received a case. Every process in this investigation is still running. None of them are finished. And until they are, the only honest answer to what happened to Nolan Wells is that we do not know yet. Subscribe to Crime Dive Network and hit that notification bell. We are staying on every confirmed development as it arrives, and we will bring it to you the moment the facts are actually in.